Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. It's yours truly, Culture Shock. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I am giving you the week one recap of the official NFL season for Daniel Jones debuted in Indiana, going up against the Miami Dolphins. The Colts wound up walking away with the victory. The score was 8-33. It was a phenomenal showing for a lot of new debuts for Indianapolis, like Cam Bynum, Travarius Ward, Daniel Jones himself, and the rookie Tyler Warren all had phenomenal debuts. Even Xavier Howard had a good game as well. This was a phenomenal feeling to be as a Colts fans who were used to seeing the Colts lose in week one. It's been forever since we've seen a week one victory, and Daniel Jones happened to break the curse. And what a lot of people would like to say in Indiana, a lot of people would think that the Colts were cursed. I don't think there was a curse at all. I think it's just a myth. I just think the Colts were not physically prepared for week one in over centuries, I would say, a long time. So I never thought it was a curse. I just thought they were underperformed every time. It looks like it's been broken. Who would have thought Daniel Jones, out of all the quarterbacks we had, was to break the curse? The last quarterback to win in week one was the great Andrew Luck. And there was a lot of quarterbacks after Andrew, as we know about the quarterback carousel. And Daniel Jones wound up winning the job as the QB1 going into the season. And not only did he win the job, he got it done in the first week of football. Now, of course, a lot of people want to take away from the Miami Dolphins. Oh, they're not as good as the people say they are. Their defense is subpar. And I like to disagree with them because I think, honestly, the Dolphins are not one of the best teams in the NFL. But I will say they have one of the best defensive lines out there in the AFC alone. I think they have a very good defensive line core. Now, of course, teams we're going to be playing going down the road, including like next week, like the Denver Broncos, they have a better team in general. But we cannot take away from the ability of Daniel Jones just breaking the game down and actually dialing in and hitting his receivers in stride, breaking down blitzes and disguises, noticing where the pressure is coming from. He did a phenomenal job in week one and solidifying the victory for the Indianapolis Colts. He went out there and went almost 100% from throwing the football. He was 22 for 29. And I had this idea of Daniel Jones going out there and throwing 300 yards, and he wound up throwing 272. I didn't think he was going to actually go out there and be as good as he was. I knew he was going to go out there and make plays, but he actually, he won me over in week one. He really did. Now, is this saying a lot going for the future of the season? No, I would say 50-50. But you can take away a lot from this game just alone from what we've seen. I think Daniel Jones had himself a phenomenal game. He's shown why he was QB1. One of the best plays from the week one matchup against the Dolphins, I would say, alone was the pass to Alec Pierce on the sideline over two defenders, right into the needle, right into the hands of only where Alec Pierce can get it. It was a beautiful pass. And then the 4th-and-1 breakdown of hitting Josh Downs, getting the first down completion. Daniel Jones used the whole play clock, used his cadences, got the offensive line to adjust, to notice where the pressure was coming from, and then got the ball out pretty quick to Josh Downs on the underneath route, which got the first down and even more. It was a beautiful play, beautiful breakdown. Love how composed Daniel Jones was in the pocket, took his time, made the reads, made the right decisions, and was dang near perfect the whole game. It was a beautiful game to see from Daniel Jones. Now, of course, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, you're gassing it. He did good, but Anthony Richardson could have did the same thing. And I really don't think so. Of course, Richardson has a lot to learn and still developing. But Daniel Jones, of course, is a vet and knows what he's doing at the end of the day. And he pretty much showed you why he was a pretty much good option to go with at the QB position for the Indianapolis Colts. Now to breakaway to continue, I think Tyler Warren had himself a phenomenal game, big catches after big catches, and not just only the catches. His run blocking ability was pretty much a standout in certain plays. Now, of course, I think the run blocking was it worried me a little bit because you couldn't really see Jonathan Taylor get off like he wanted to. Of course, he had big runs, but it wasn't the Jonathan Taylor we're used to seeing. So it still needs to be some improvement in the run blocking game. But I think the pass blocking game was what won me over. They did a pretty phenomenal job. Huge shout out to Quentin Nelson being a vet. I think Tanner Bortolini had himself a good game as well. Besides a few penalties from Bernard Ryman, I think Bortolini and Quentin Nelson had a pretty good day. If I had to choose my options of standouts on the offensive line, it would be Bortolini and Quentin Nelson. Now, other than that, I think Bernard Ryman had a pretty decent game. But those two for sure were the ones I was looking at the most for the protection wise of who did pretty much have themselves a good job on the offensive line. Of course, other than that, replacing Will Fries and Ryan Kelly was something to question going into this game. In week one, I think did a pretty decent job, even better job with blocking on the pass game. The run game still needs improvement a little bit, in my opinion, but that's where the QB comes in and makes those reads and gets the ball out quick. Wasn't taking too long. He got hurried up on a few plays, but other than that, I think Daniel Jones had a pretty phenomenal day just hitting his targets. Josh Downs had himself a good day. Alec Pierce had one big catch. A.D. Mitchell had a few good reps in there as well. There was one play where, Daniel Jones wound up missing A.D. Mitchell by a few and got him short of the first down. And you can see the frustration A.D. Mitchell where he got the catch but couldn't do nothing with it. It was just a misled ball just due to the pressure. But other than that, I think A.D. Mitchell had two good catches. One good catch, I would say. The other one was pretty short. Michael Pittman Jr. had himself a pretty good day. Alec Pierce, his blocking on the screens for Tyler Warren could have been even better. The protection was a little weak from Alec Pierce on the tight end screens. But Alec Pierce had a few good plays, and I loved how Daniel Jones got all the targets involved. I mentioned during the game how Daniel Jones had a lot of receivers and options, and he pretty much used most of them, all of them. Honestly, he used all of them. We've seen the debut of DJ Giddens. He had a few decent runs, got a little stuffed as well. Like I mentioned, the run blocking could have improved, and he probably would have had a better day. He came in after Jonathan Taylor got hit pretty hard on one of the plays, and they wound up just resting Jonathan Taylor because honestly, we didn't need him. Honestly, we did not need Jonathan Taylor. So it was the better, safe option, just having him on the sideline and getting the Rick some reps, I was fine with. Bentley had one rep. Ashton Doolin had himself a pretty good jet sweep option where he pretty much came from one side and ran to the other. It was a really good one that got us into the red zone territory, and Daniel Jones wound up using the tush push-like play to get into the end zone. Most of the running and success on touchdowns for running was from Daniel Jones. Of course, a lot of fantasy owners wasn't fans with that because they wanted Jonathan Taylor to be that guy. But Daniel Jones is known for those red zone pushes, and he wound up got in the end zone. Wasn't mad. I just wanted points, so I don't care who got it. I'm not really a fantasy fan, so I don't look into that kind of stuff like betting-wise. Other than that, on the defensive side, we're going to translate over. I think the defensive line had a phenomenal day just forcing the ball onto it. And the defense did a good job in keeping the Dolphins in front of them because we know if you give the Dolphins a chance at getting behind you, it can be a long game. And they wind up keeping them in front and having them play to their type of pace of football. Now, there was a lot of few reps where there was good completions, but they pretty much had Waddle and Hill on an island, and they really couldn't do much. Shout out to Kenny Moore forcing the fumble and Xavier Howard picking the ball up. Shout out to Liatu Latu for his first interception in the NFL. It shocked me. I would just give the credit to Lou Anarumo and his scheme. The pressures that he was putting on Miami was something we've seen in the past. We've seen glimpses in the preseason. The fact that we put it into full effect in week one was a dream come true. The pressure was there. The DBs was there. Cam Bynum got a pick, got his celebration. I wanted Cam Bynum to be the guy to catch the pick for the first turnover, and it wanted to be him just due to how cool his celebrations are. And he wound up catching one in week one. It was an amazing feeling. Of course, this game had a lot on it, a lot of legends in the building. You know, Jim Irsay got into the Ring of Honor, and everyone was just hitting on all cylinders. Now, of course, Zaire Franklin, he had himself a pretty decent day as well. Of course, the coverage was lacking a little bit, but it is what it is. I wanted to see Joe Bacci in coverage more than Zaire, but Zaire still had himself a pretty decent day. He was everywhere on the field, so this doesn't take away from what he did. He was everywhere, but the defense was pretty much striking everywhere. I seen Mekhi Blackman out there. He had a pretty good tackle on one of those wrap-ups. He was out there. Joe Bacci had a pretty decent day. Bynum had a good day. The pass rush was effective. DeForest Buckner was there. Grover Stewart was out there wheeling and dealing as well. I seen Gallimore out there. He was getting pressures. But like I said, honestly, and Spencer Schrader, give credit to Spencer Schrader too. He hit all his field goals. And Rigoberto Sanchez, he did pretty good on the special teams. He did a decent job, I would say. They did a decent job. But like I said, the pressure was there. And that's something I mentioned in the preview. If the pressure gets there on Tua, it forces him to pretty much hurry up most of his plays. Like even in the red zone, we had a pass deflection by Kenny Moore, and then we had another breakup after that on fourth down. It was two plays where it was two breakups in the red zone, and the defense just pretty much stood up. It was a pretty decent day. Like I said, before they scored on that drive, they had two breakups on second and third down. But the Colts, they played out of their minds in week one. Wasn't expecting that turnout. I was expecting a closer game, but it was a bigger showing than what I expected. The crowd was hyped. Loved the Lucas Oil Stadium was rocking. The roof was open. And hopefully they can keep this up going into next week and the rest of the season, because I was in love with how the game was played. Everything was hitting all cylinders, and I'm excited to see what they got for us next week. But it's going to be a even bigger test going into next week. You know, every week is a new week, so you never know how your opponent's going to match up with you. So it's going to be interesting. But the Colts played a phenomenal football game, and you know the week one curse is over, as what you guys would say. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do moving forward. Hopefully, we can get Warren in the end zone finally, or Jonathan Taylor. Hopefully, Jonathan Taylor's better going into next week as well. Various Ward was in concussion protocol. Hopefully, he can be out of there about going into week two. So we'll be updated on what that looks like moving forward as well. I see my guy Tyler Scott on the sideline. That was pretty cool. Anthony Walker Jr. was on the sideline as well, because they were two new signees. Khalil Herbert got released today as of this video, and they wound up signing Amir Abdullah to the roster. So that's interesting to see what they're going to do with him moving forward as well. He's pretty much a receiving back option, so that's going to be interesting. But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section about the game. How do you feel about it? What's your reactions? What's your thoughts on Daniel Jones' debut? How do you think he's going to play moving forward? A lot of people, Colts fans, was like, build him a statue. He's in the MVP race. He had himself a phenomenal day. So hopefully he can keep it up, because I say it's going to get worse when the only better defenses is coming moving forward. So we'll see how he plays moving forward. But as of week one, give him credit for what he's done. Shane Steichen did himself a phenomenal job being aggressive the whole game and being successful. Lou Anarumo had himself a phenomenal day as well. But all of those things, let me know in the comment section. This is Culture Shock, and until next time, you guys have a good one and stay safe.